If you ask most men why they want a vasectomy, you get a version of the same answer. Our family's complete. We know we don't want kids. We want something permanent, or it's just time to start a new chapter. All that is true, but we've done more than 30,000 of these procedures over 20 years, and we've learned to hear the hidden truth behind that answer. The truth most men don't say out loud is those first couple minutes of the consultation. It usually shows up as this. Sex used to be something they looked forward to. At some point, it stopped being that. They're not exactly sure when it changed, and they haven't said that out loud to anyone. Most men haven't connected that change to the decision they're about to make. But we have, and what we've seen across thousands of patients is the real reason men want a vasectomy is almost never the reason they lead with. In this video, we're going to name it. We're going to explain what's actually driving their decision, why it's more common than most men realize, and why being honest about it at your consultation changes what you get out of the procedure. When a man calls to schedule a consultation, he almost always leads with the family planning angle. The kids are all good, our family's complete, it's time for something permanent. And all of that is true, but listen long enough and a different picture comes to light. He mentions that his wife can't tolerate hormonal birth control, or that they've cycled through other birth control options that either don't work well or create their own problem, or that he just wants to stop thinking about contraception every single time he's with his partner. The practical frame is simply easier to say out loud. Protecting your family from an unplanned pregnancy sounds responsible. Admitting that pregnancy anxiety has taken the enjoyment out of sex sounds like a complaint. Most men aren't going to lead with that. The practical frame is easier to say and it gets the job done. What we see most often is that the real driver behind the decision to get a vasectomy stays unspoken. And when this happens, the man is pleasantly surprised at how much the vasectomy changes things. He books his vasectomy appointment expecting a form of birth control. What he actually gets, if everything goes as planned, is the removal of a chronic background stressor that has been shaping his sex life for months or years. That's a bigger deal than he realized going in. Here's the mechanism, and it matters because this is what a vasectomy actually fixes. Your nervous system runs two basic modes. The first is the one you want during sex. It's relaxed, present, it's connected. The second is a low-level alert state your brain runs when it senses ongoing risks. Now, psychologists call it chronic background threat. Basically, your brain perceives a persistent source of potential consequences and keeps a portion of your attention reserved for it. You don't feel it as anxiety in the way you'd feel before a presentation or a difficult conversation. You feel it as the inability to fully let go. Unplanned pregnancy risk, when it's persistent and the stakes are high, is exactly the kind of input that triggers chronic background threat. You know intellectually that your current birth control has a very low failure rate, but your brain doesn't fully believe it. And that small reservation of mental attention follows you into moments that should be completely free of stress. The result isn't dramatic. Nobody goes from a great sex life to no sex life overnight. What happens is more subtle. The moments of real connection become less frequent. Sex starts to feel like something you're doing carefully, instead of something you're fully in. Over months, the gap between what intimacy used to feel like and what it feels like now widens, and most couples don't label it correctly. They assume something changed between them, or that the stress of life is just catching up with them. Some of them decide this is just what happens after a few years together. What makes this particularly hard to address is that neither partner usually names it correctly. The man doesn't say, "I'm anxious about pregnancy and it's affecting how I'm showing up." He says the relationship has become routine. His partner doesn't say, "The anxiety in my partner is creating distance between us." She says they're less connected than they used to be. They're both describing the same exact thing from different angles, and neither is wrong. But the cause is still there, underneath it, unnamed. It's often still true when a man calls us to schedule. Many times the missing piece is the one background variable that never fully turns off. The ongoing risk of an unplanned pregnancy, changing everything they've worked to build. If you're finding this useful, subscribe to the channel. We put out a new video every week that answers the real questions men have about vasectomies, including the ones most people don't ask out loud. We've had a patient a few years ago named Michael. He was 41 years old. He came to us asking for a vasectomy. He shared that his wife had a blood clotting disorder called factor V Leiden. That's a condition where the blood clots too easily and it makes hormonal birth control medically dangerous for her. They tried an IUD, but that caused heavy bleeding. They had basically run out of safe options. By the time Michael came in, the couple had stopped having sex. He came in and said these words: "I just need to know she'll be safe." That was the real driver, his wife's safety, and his need to stop carrying that fear that the next time they were together, something would go wrong for her. He wasn't coming in for family planning. He was coming in because pregnancy anxiety had taken over and their relationship was paying the price. We completed his vasectomy, and Michael requested 4 semen analysis to confirm sterility. Now, our standard protocol is 2. He wanted to be completely sure, and we understood why. Once his results came back clear, something shifted. He and his wife returned to a normal, healthy relationship. He came back to thank us multiple times and said, "You saved our marriage." He couldn't have been more grateful. Michael's story isn't unusual. The details change, but the story is the same across thousands of patients. The anxiety was the real problem. The vasectomy solved it, and their relationship reflected that. We want men to understand something before they come in for their consultation. Wanting your sex life back is a completely valid reason to get a vasectomy. Your sexual relationship with your partner is part of your overall health. When it suffers, your relationship suffers, and your stress levels go up. That pattern compounds over time. These are real outcomes worth treating directly. When a man worried about getting his partner pregnant during intimate moments, in the back of his mind, he starts thinking about how much his life would get derailed if he gets his partner pregnant, all the consequences and all the life changes that would happen. He's thinking, is this 10 minutes of fun worth another college tuition? Is it worth delaying my retirement by 18 years? I better really concentrate to make sure I get my timing right to make sure that doesn't happen. And all of a sudden, sex, which should be one of the most enjoyable things in life, becomes a worry. And that's not fun. When we remove the chronic background risk, your nervous system can finally relax and run in the mode it's supposed to during intimacy. That low-level alert state that was keeping track of potential consequences finally turns off. Many men report that sex after a confirmed vasectomy has a sense of freedom, different from sex with even highly effective birth control, because birth control reduces the risk but doesn't eliminate it. A confirmed vasectomy does. That shift isn't in your head. Your nervous system is doing something different. The input that was triggering the low-level alert state is gone, and the intimacy that was available to you before pregnancy anxiety became a constant factor, it becomes available again. We've seen men come back months after the confirmed vasectomy and describe it in almost the same words. It was like a door they'd forgotten was closed just opened again. Not because anything physiologic changed, but because now they could fully let go and enjoy getting lost in the moment. The relief is real. Because the thing that had been running quietly in the background, that alert state that made full presence more difficult, that stopped running, finally. That's a legitimate medical win. The fact that it shows up in the bedroom doesn't make it less so. This win is one we've seen countless times over 30,000 vasectomies we've done. And it's one we want men to be able to voice directly at their consultation, because it changes the conversation in useful ways. Most men arrive at a vasectomy consultation and stick to the practical frame. Family complete, ready for something permanent. And that works fine. The consultation covers everything it needs to cover. But if what we've described today matches what you've been feeling, say it directly. You don't need to beat around the bush. You can tell us what you're really thinking, that pregnancy anxiety is affecting your intimacy. You can tell us that your partner's birth control situation has become its own source of ongoing stress. And you can tell us plainly that you want your relationship back the way it was before this worry became a major factor. That information helps us understand what you're working toward, and it helps us make sure you leave the consultation with a clear sense of what the path forward looks like. We want to know the real driver. It helps us help you. Pregnancy anxiety running in the background is a real thing. Your nervous system responds to it the same way it responds to any chronic source of risk, and your sex life reflects that. Whether you've named it or not, wanting that to stop is a completely legitimate reason to schedule. You came to the right place. If this raised other questions about what vasectomy actually changes, watch this video next. It's called "The #1 Vasectomy Myth Men Actually Believe."